Mr. Taylor's behavior that day, there is no reason why these officers could not arrest him.
Under Florida law, officers are allowed to use deadly force under very specific circumstances when they reasonably believe someone poses an immediate threat of death or serious harm, or to stop a dangerous felon from escaping when necessary. The family's attorney believes this video raises questions about whether that legal standard was met.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Carr2Carr. I'm Ramon.
And hi, I'm Dana, and today we'll discuss a case out of Hollywood Police Department where Donald Taylor, the suspect, was shot and killed during an encounter with the police. Ramon, what are your thoughts about this shooting?
Okay, I'm going to try to do a little deep dive because there's a lot of little nuances to this. So I'm going to go to my notes. I'm going to Dana Carr this thing. So there's several questions that I have, and the first one starts with, how did this encounter even begin? I know the police department said that they were doing some sort of operation or something like that, so I'd be curious to see, was this operation due to what was going on with any types of robberies, burglaries, or things of that nature? Did they do an operational plan? So I'd be curious to see exactly how it started and if they, in fact, were watching him, and what information these officers were operating under. Were they operating under the fact that this person who they encountered, Mr. Taylor, was the actual offender they were looking for, or were they just looking for any suspect at all?
Okay, yes, he was a suspect in shooting and robbery. One occurred in Miramar, one occurred in Hollywood, so they were conducting surveillance on him.
On him specifically?
Yes.
Okay. I'd be curious to see where the gun was found. In the state of Florida, we can carry guns permanently. And so, just the fact that him having a gun is not illegal. But if they knew prior to that he was a felon, then him carrying a gun is obviously illegal. When I saw the encounter, when you see Mr. Taylor walking away, you in fact see that he had his hands outstretched. There was some distance between himself and the police officers. There was no barrier between the officer and the suspect. And so I think that as police officers, we have to make sure we maintain the adequate distance so that that distance gives us time, and that time gives us safety and gives us a little bit more clarity as to the actions that we want to take. So if they were in fact looking for him, they found him, they saw him, they should have immediately set up a perimeter. That perimeter would have helped them not kill Mr. Taylor or possibly get involved in the shooting. So I would have liked to have seen them set up a perimeter to capture him. I think good old-fashioned police training can't go out the window, and I think sometimes that does. The one shot, I've never seen a situation where police departments are teaching one shot. I didn't go to Hollywood Police Academy. I didn't go to any Broward County Police Academy, but I know what the state of Florida rules and regulations are, and we're all taught the same in the state of Florida: double tap and assess. And I know that the Hollywood Police Department or BSO is not teaching one shot. When I see a single shot, I think, oops, mistake, some sort of failed discharge or something that needed some sort of accident. So when I see the single shot, I'm automatically thinking, man, he wasn't confident with the shot. We're taught double tap assess. And what I mean by double tap assess is 2 shots, assess to see if the threat stopped. If the threat stopped, no more shots. If it hasn't, double tap again, 2 more shots and assess. I already talked about the distance and the tactical decision that they had. They should have set up a perimeter, got K9, got a drone if they're using it. I always see BSO, since we live in South Florida, have their helicopter up. So they had a lot of different options at their disposal. Again, I would like to see if they had, in fact, a tactical plan and what that plan entailed. Some of the stuff that I don't like that continues to happen that I think makes us lose credibility as police departments is, as soon as a situation happens, we're quick to put out this person was this, he was that, he had this background, he was a horrible person, but we don't put out the officer's information. I think in order to keep credibility, we should do both. Put out both of the people's information, their backgrounds, or put out nothing. If you're proud of your officer and the work that your officer did, put that information out. Hey, listen, we stand by, don't be ashamed of it. We stand by a police officer until we're not going to stand by him because of his actions, whether they violated policy or things of that nature. But Officer A, he has 20 accommodations. He's a studious person of law enforcement. He's attended X, Y, and Z tactical classes. That's not muddying the waters against the police officer or for him. That's just putting the background out. And I think the more that we don't do it, it just makes us look bad as police departments. The body worn camera, I think that shows transparency. So I think if they would have, listen, I'm a fan of showing whatever footage you have to the immediate family. So if Mr. Taylor was married, show it to his next of kin, his wife. If he wasn't married, he had a daughter, show it to the daughter, to the mom, whoever. You don't have to put it out to the entire media, but I think that helps with some transparency and understanding. And I think police departments have to, this is the last thing I'll say and let you go. Police departments cannot stand on the one police officer for them ensuring the trust, transparency, and community relations of their police department. It has to be more than that. If your police officer's wrong, he's wrong. If he's right, he's right. But I think when you come out, you have to give that statement, hey, listen, we're going to stand with our officer until we see something different, or we're not going to make any comment either way. We had an officer-involved shooting. This happened. This is what we could release, and that's all we're going to release. I think that as a law enforcement community, there has to be a more neutral-based statement that needs to come out that doesn't alienate or make any situation, especially the police department, look greater than they are. Then they have to walk the statement back.
At the time that the suspect was shot, there was no gun in his hands. Clearly, his hands were outstretched, so I don't believe there was any justification at the time he was shot for that officer to shoot. You mentioned that it was one shot. Thank God in this moment that it was one shot, and unfortunately it was a fatal shot because there was no justification for the shot. And because the state of Florida is a permitless carry state, Mr. Taylor was only suspected of a robbery or a shooting. So theoretically, at that time, he could have legally carried. So state of Florida being a permitless carry state, that doesn't give an authorization for police officers to shoot. You have to still go by your shoot of force, your policy, your use of force policy. And if it does not meet that criteria where you are in fear for your life, you should not be shooting at that time. There was no other people around that you could see that he have been in the process of hurting. So I just don't see any justification for that shooting at that time. The statement that the police gave that said he was armed and that he was forced to fire, the officer was forced to fire, it kind of insinuates that the officer was being threatened, but that's clearly not the case. And if the officer gave that statement and then you find evidence that the statements aren't congruent, then the officer should be held accountable for not telling the truth because clearly there was no gun in his hands.
I agree. And, when I look at this, again, to the point that I made before and to your point, is that we got to stand on truth. It's as simple as that. We have to stand on truth. And the media as well put some salt in the game, and they were talking about force to fire as well. Then when you see the video, this third-party video, and you see that there was no force to fire, it's just disappointing because we already have a tough job to do as police officers and as the law enforcement community, whether it's police, corrections, dispatchers. It's a tough job already, and I think we're trained well enough. We have to remember that we're trained to put ourselves in a little bit more harm's way because that's what the job entails. But with that training, we're taught, okay, use cover, um, uh, use commands, set of perimeters. Like we're taught all of these different nuances of things to use. Use K9, use the helicopter. We have tools at our display, and it's just disappointing that we don't utilize those tools and we keep making an excuse. Oh, I was rushed. I was this. Let me tell you, I remember one thing that I saw a long time ago, which helped me change the way I do police chases. And I saw somebody running a three, which was just license sirens and stuff, and they were so relaxed and laid back. And I saw them talking on their walkie-talkie, and I was like, you know what, man, that's how I want to be. I want to, when all hell's breaking loose, I'm going to danger. I want to be relaxed and calm and be able to think and be able to articulate to the people that matter that's going to get me help or help me to render whatever scene I'm going to safe. And so I practice that. So we have to practice that. We have to practice going to these situations, these scenarios. I've been in so many situations with people with guns. I had somebody charging at me with a knife and didn't have a discharge. And I know all of our fears are different as police officers. I know it. But one, we can't put ourselves in situations that force situations to come at us fast. Two, we have to use the training. We have to use, which is understanding the backstop, using cover and concealment. We have to use those and using perimeters and K9. Those things that keep us safe. We can't rush through situations, and I think that keeps happening here. And I just say to you all out there that if this was your police officer and you saw this situation, how would you feel? Would you support the police officer, or would you say, hey, listen, this police officer was wrong? And, thank God that we keep getting these third party cameras, because if we don't, that one narrative that that police officer is putting out there is going to always be right. And we're not going to be able to see some of these situations are that we're doing wrong. And these wrong situations should help us train better.
I agree. And there's a narrative that's permeating around that, oh, well, maybe he should have complied, or he was armed, or he was refusing commands. But show me any policy, any law that just says, oh, well, you can shoot a person because they didn't comply. You can shoot them because they didn't refuse to obey your commands, or you can shoot them just clearly, merely because they're armed. When I see that policy, then I say, okay, but that doesn't exist right now. So the use of force policies and state laws, federal laws apply. So just govern yourselves accordingly. Because right now, I see some of these shootings just that's are not justified, and this is one of them.
I agree. I don't think this shooting is justified as well. And unfortunately, this officer needs to be held accountable. Um, I know people are not going to like it, but this officer should be fired, and there should be some sort of legal action taken against him, because we can't, and I know that the job entails us to get into these situations, but we have to do it legally, ethically, and morally. I mean, we still are governed by the Constitution, no matter what.
Absolutely.
And so if we go outside of that, then shame on us. And if we're so afraid, of these situations as police officers, and we're coming looking like the Gestapo now. We got, and if you look at this police officer, he had on everything. He had a big tactical vest on. He had every weapon. His partner had a big tactical vest, everything on.
Yeah, long rifles.
Everything.
All that.
So
But they didn't have the right to be judge, jury, and executioner.
I agree. So, that's all I have. That's my soapbox for this video, but I'm just disappointed in some of our actions, and then the police department and even the media, sustaining some of that, because that goes towards the community police relationship that we're supposed to be trying to build.
Yes. And with that, thank you for watching another episode of Carr2Carr Podcast. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and also comment. We appreciate the feedback.
We do. And until next time.
Until next time.